The invitation to annihilation. The Zarathian Empire had conquered 47 species across 200 star systems. Their fleets were legendary, titanic warships that could glass planets from orbit. Their warriors were bred for battle, their minds conditioned for dominance. For 3,000 years, no civilization had refused their ultimatum and survived. So when the Empire's Supreme War Council transmitted their declaration to Earth, they expected panic, screaming, desperate pleas for mercy. Instead, they got a polite reply requesting coordinates for a diplomatic meeting. The council chamber fell silent when the message was read aloud. High Commander Varric, whose scales had darkened with age and countless victories, stared at the holographic text hovering before him. They wished to negotiate? His voice carried the weight of genuine confusion. "It appears so, Commander," replied his chief strategist, a thin-framed Zarathian named Kellis. "They've proposed sending 2 representatives to discuss terms." Varric's clawed hand tightened around his command staff. Every species eventually begged. But they usually had the sense to beg immediately, not schedule an appointment. "Let them come," he growled. "We will show these humans what awaits those who waste our time." The council chamber of the Zarathian flagship Eternal Dominion was designed to intimidate. Obsidian pillars rose 30 meters to a vaulted ceiling, embedded with the captured flags of extinct civilizations. The council itself sat elevated on a crescent platform, 7 figures in ornate battle armor, backlit by the crimson glow of the system's dying star. When the human shuttle docked, the Zarathians expected a delegation of at least a dozen, military escorts, tactical advisors, perhaps some trembling political figures in formal dress. Instead, 2 humans walked through the massive doors. Ambassador. Henry Cole was in his late 50s, with gray threading through his dark hair and laugh lines around his eyes. He wore a simple gray suit with a blue tie. Beside him walked Dr. Ica Mendez, younger by a decade, her black hair pulled back neatly, dressed in equally unremarkable business attire. Neither wore armor, neither carried weapons. Both were smiling. High Commander Varric leaned forward on his throne, his massive frame casting a shadow across the polished floor. "You are the human representatives?" "We are," Ambassador Cole replied, his voice pleasant and clear. "Ambassador Henry Cole, and this is Dr. Ica Mendez, our chief xenocultural liaison. Thank you for receiving us on such short notice." Silence stretched across the chamber. Several council members exchanged glances. The human spoke as if he'd been invited to a conference, not a declaration of extermination. "You received our ultimatum," Varric stated, his tone sharp enough to cut atmosphere. "Yet you smile. Explain this. Peculiarity." Dr. Mendez stepped forward slightly, her hands clasped loosely in front of her. "Well, Commander, in human culture, smiling during difficult conversations is considered polite. We find it helps reduce tension." "Tension," Kellis repeated from his position at Varric's right hand. "You believe you are causing us tension?" "Oh no," Ambassador Cole interjected smoothly. "We're just trying to keep things cordial. After all, we've come a long way for this conversation." Varric's eyes, 3 black orbs that could track movement independently, fixed on the ambassador. "You came because your species faces annihilation. The Zarathian Empire does not make idle threats. Within 1 solar cycle, your colonies will burn. Within 2, your homeworld will be reduced to ash. This is your final opportunity to surrender and accept subjugation." "Right, yes, we read the ultimatum," Cole acknowledged with a nod. "Very thorough. The part about erasing humanity from the cosmic record was particularly vivid." "Did you write that yourself, Commander?" Strong imagery. A low growl rumbled through the chamber. Varric's claws scraped against stone. Dr. Mendez pulled a small tablet from her jacket pocket. "Before we discuss terms, we'd like to understand your reasoning. May I ask why the Zarathian Empire has chosen to target humanity specifically?" Kellis's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "Because you expanded too quickly. Too recklessly. You claimed systems without permission, ignored established territorial boundaries, and demonstrated a complete disregard for galactic order." "Ah," Dr. Mendez tapped her tablet thoughtfully. So it's primarily a territorial concern? It is a concern of dominance, Varric corrected coldly. The galaxy has an order, the strong rule. The weak submit or perish. Your species appeared in space barely 100 of your years ago, yet you've spread like a plague across thousands of systems. You've shown no respect for those who came before you. Ambassador Cole tilted his head slightly. That's fair criticism. We have been rather prolific, though I should mention, most of those systems were uninhabited. We're very careful about not stepping on anyone's toes. You stepped on ours, Varric snarled. The Caridian cluster was Zarathian territory by right of conquest. You established 17 colonies there without permission. The Caridian cluster, Dr. Mendez repeated, consulting her tablet. That's the region you conquered. Let me see. 400 years ago, after eliminating the indigenous Caridian population? The chamber temperature seemed to drop several degrees. What occurs in warfare is not your concern, human. Of course not, Dr. Mendez agreed pleasantly. I was just establishing the timeline. So those systems have been empty for 4 centuries and you're upset that we moved in? They were ours, Kelly's hissed. Marked, claimed, reserved for future expansion. Ambassador Cole's smile never wavered. For 400 years? That's quite a reservation period. We humans have a saying, use it or lose it. But I understand you operate differently. Varric rose from his throne, his full 3-meter height casting the humans in shadow. Your insolence confirms what we already knew. Humanity is a cancer that must be excised. You came here to beg for mercy. Instead, you mock us. Very well. You will carry our final message to your pathetic government. Prepare for extinction. Actually, Dr. Mendez said, still utterly calm, we came to offer you mercy. The chamber erupted with harsh barking laughter from the assembled Zarathians. Varric's expression twisted into something between fury and disbelief. You offer us mercy? The High Commander's voice could have melted hull plating. You stand in our citadel, surrounded by the might of an empire that has crushed dozens of civilizations, and you dare. Commander, Ambassador Cole interrupted gently. Before this goes any further, I think it's important we share some context. Dr. Mendez, if you would. Dr. Mendez tapped her tablet, and a holographic display materialized in the center of the chamber. Star charts, population figures, industrial capacity metrics. When humanity entered space 117 years ago, she began, her lecturer's voice filling the vast room. We had one planet, 8 billion people, and technology we'd invented ourselves over thousands of years of isolated development. We'd never met another sapient species. We didn't know the galaxy was populated. The hologram shifted, expanding outward from Sol system in a cascading wave of blue markers. Today, humanity occupies 7,412 star systems. Our population exceeds 90 billion across 368 planets and over 2,000 major space habitats. We've established this presence in just over a century. Varric's eyes tracked the spreading blue tide across the star chart. You list your accomplishments as if they impress us. They do not. They merely confirm you breed like vermin. Breed, yes, Ambassador Cole agreed. But also build, adapt, innovate. See, Commander, humanity's history is instructive. We spent our first several thousand years killing each other. Wars, genocides. We got very, very good at organized violence. Then, about 400 years ago, we had an industrial revolution. Suddenly, we could kill each other much more efficiently. World wars, nuclear weapons. We came very close to making ourselves extinct at least twice. A species of self-destructive primitives, Kellis observed. This does not support your case. Dr. Mendez smiled. But then we stopped, mostly. We learned to cooperate, grudgingly, imperfectly, but we learned. And when we finally reached space, we had something most species apparently don't. And what is that? Varric demanded. Experience being the underdog. The hologram changed, now showing images of human vessels. Not military dreadnoughts, but colony ships, mining stations, research outposts. Thousands of them spreading like seeds across the darkness. Every single human civilization in history has faced extinction at some point. Ambassador Cole continued. Famine, disease, natural disasters. Hostile neighbors. We built our entire culture around the assumption that the universe is trying to kill us. So when we got to space and found it was mostly empty, well, we did what we always do. We spread out, diversified, made sure that if disaster struck one world, dozens of others would survive. Your point? Varroc's patience was clearly wearing thin. Our point, Dr. Mendez said quietly, is that you cannot destroy us. Not really.
Even if you glass every planet we've colonized, and you can't, not without committing resources that would leave you vulnerable elsewhere, you'll only hit a fraction of our population.
The rest are distributed across space habitats, asteroid bases, generation ships, research stations, and deep space. We're everywhere and nowhere. We learned that lesson from our own history. Ambassador Cole's smile finally faded, replaced by something harder. And here's the uncomfortable truth, Commander. We've been doing military projections since we received your ultimatum. Your empire is impressive, truly, but it's also overextended. Your fleets are powerful, but they're concentrated around core territories. Your logistics chains are vulnerable. Your subject species, well, several of them seem rather resentful of Zarathian rule. Careful, human, Varroc warned, but there was something new in his voice. Uncertainty. We ran the simulations, Dr. Mendez said. If this goes to war, we estimate 15 to 20 years of conflict. Heavy casualties on both sides. You'll win most of the fleet engagements. Your warships are superior to ours, but we'll bleed you with asymmetric warfare, hit-and-run attacks, logistics interdiction, and while you're focused on us, some of your subject species might get ideas about independence. Ambassador Cole stepped forward, and despite his slight frame, he suddenly seemed to fill the chamber. So here's our offer, Commander, walk away. Declare that humanity has agreed to respect Zarathian borders, which we will. Claim it as a diplomatic victory, save face, save lives, and avoid a decades-long war that will hollow out your empire from within. The silence that followed was absolute. Finally, Varroc spoke, his voice low and dangerous. You truly believe you can threaten us? No, Ambassador Cole replied simply. We're trying to save you. The weight of a smile. The Zarathian High Commander studied the two humans before him with new calculation. In 3,000 years of expansion, no prey species had ever spoken to him this way. Threats he understood, they came from competitors equals other apex predators. But these humans weren't threatening. They were warning, as if they'd already run the equations and were disappointed by the results. It was infuriating. Your confidence, Varroc said slowly, is either extraordinary courage or suicidal delusion. Our intelligence suggests your military comprises perhaps 3,000 vessels. We command 40,000. 41,612, actually. Dr. Mendez corrected gently, consulting her tablet. Though 307 are currently undergoing repairs, and your Sixth Fleet has that recurring problem with their jump drives. You might want to look into that. The assembled council members shifted uncomfortably. Kellis's eyes narrowed. How do you— We're very good at gathering information, Ambassador Cole interjected. It's one of those survival traits we developed. When you've spent millennia being invaded, conquered, and subjugated by your own species, you learn to value intelligence gathering. Varroc's claws scraped stone again. Even if your spies have penetrated our fleet operations, which will be corrected, you cannot possibly believe 3,000 vessels can stand against 40,000. You're absolutely right, Cole agreed. In a straight fleet engagement, we'd be obliterated, so we wouldn't fight that way. Commander, do you know what a guerrilla war is? Enlighten me. Ambassador Cole's expression grew distant, almost sad. For most of human history, conquest was simple. The strong invaded the weak. Cities fell. Populations submitted. But occasionally a weaker force would refuse to submit. They'd melt into forests, mountains, jungles. They'd strike supply lines, assassinate officers, sabotage infrastructure. They'd make occupation so costly, so exhausting, that eventually the invaders just left. Dr. Mendez continued. We've been analyzing Zarathian doctrine. You rely on overwhelming force and shock tactics. Your strategy is to shatter enemy will through demonstrations of power. It's very effective against conventional opponents. But humanity isn't conventional, Cole said softly. We're stubborn. Stupidly, almost pathologically stubborn. We have entire cultural mythologies celebrating last stands, doomed resistances, Pyrrhic victories, songs about people who fought losing battles just to prove they wouldn't surrender. The hologram shifted again, now displaying historical human conflicts. Ancient battles, modern wars. The images cascaded past. Soldiers in trenches, resistance fighters in occupied cities, guerrillas in jungles. This is Earth's 20th century, Dr. Mendez narrated. We call it the bloodiest century in human history. Over 100 million dead in wars. We invented industrial-scale killing, chemical weapons, nuclear weapons, weapons designed specifically to cause maximum suffering. And yet through all of it, we never developed a culture of surrender. Occupied peoples kept fighting. Outnumbered armies kept resisting. It became our defining characteristic. We don't stop. Varric watched the images with growing unease. You celebrate your own violence? No, Ambassador Cole corrected. We remember it. There's a difference. We remember what we're capable of when pushed to the edge. And we work very, very hard to avoid going back there. Kelly's leaned forward, his tactical mind clearly working through scenarios. Even if you could sustain irregular resistance, what would be the point? We would still control your planets. Your populations would still suffer occupation. Would you, though? Dr. Mendez pulled up another display, this time showing human settlement patterns. Commander Varric, how many of our population centers have you identified? The question caught Varric off guard. Intelligence estimates 368 major planetary colonies. Close. 371 as of last month. But those planets only house about 60% of humanity. The other 40%, 36 billion people, live in space. Rotating habitats, asteroid bases, deep space stations, O'Neill cylinders, generation ships. We're not actually a planetary species anymore. We just pretend to be because planets are nice. Ambassador Cole picked up the thread. So here's the tactical reality. You can bombard our planets, but you'll kill less than 2/3 of our population, and you'll turn the survivors into martyrs with nothing left to lose. The rest of humanity will still be out there in the dark, building weapons in hidden shipyards and planning revenge. And unlike your previous conquests, Dr. Mendez added, we have no central command structure you can decapitate. Earth is important culturally, but it's not critical operationally. We have 17 Tier 1 industrial centers distributed across 4 spiral arms. Destroy one and the others increase production. We designed our civilization to be impossible to kill in a single blow. Varric's voice dropped to a growl. Then we will hunt you down. System by system. Habitat by habitat. Until humanity is extinct. That would take decades, Cole replied. Centuries, maybe. And while you're chasing scattered human populations through the Orion Arm, what happens to your empire? How long before your subject species realize you've committed everything to a vendetta? How long before they stop sending tribute? Before they start testing your weakened borders? The council chamber had grown deathly quiet. These were calculations Varric had already begun making privately, but hearing them stated so plainly was different. The humans weren't guessing. They'd done the analysis. Dr. Mendez's voice softened. Commander, we genuinely don't want this war. We're not ideological opponents. We're not competing for resources. We just want to exist, and we're willing to compromise. Establish clear borders, set up demilitarized zones, create trade agreements if you're interested. We can both walk away from this. You speak as if you have any leverage, Kellis objected. You admit our military superiority. You acknowledge we could devastate your colonies, yet you act as if we are the ones at risk. Ambassador Cole's smile returned, but it had changed. There was no humor in it now, only sadness. Let me tell you a story, he said quietly. In the year 1939, by our calendar, one nation invaded another, a small country that everyone expected to fall within weeks. The aggressor had overwhelming military superiority, better tanks, better aircraft, a larger army. They'd already conquered 6 nations. Victory seemed inevitable. The hologram shifted, showing ancient military formations, burning cities, troops advancing through snow. The small nation fought anyway. They used terrain to their advantage. Ambush tactics, mobility. They made the invader pay for every kilometer. And while they eventually lost territory, they hurt the aggressor so badly that it changed the entire course of the war. The aggressor's reputation for invincibility shattered. Other nations saw weakness. Resistance became possible. Ambassador Cole met Varric's gaze directly. That's what we'll do to you, Commander. Maybe you'll win. Maybe you'll stand on the ashes of Earth and declare victory. But every other species in this sector will see what it cost you. They'll see the Zarathian Empire exhausted, overextended, vulnerable, and they'll realize you're not invincible, just strong. The silence stretched. Somewhere in the massive ship, systems hummed. Outside the viewport, stars wheeled slowly in the void. Finally, Varric spoke. You are either the bravest species we have encountered or the most foolish. Probably both, Dr. Mendez admitted. Bravery and foolishness often look similar from the outside. And if we proceed with our ultimatum anyway? If we decide the lesson is worth the cost? Ambassador Cole's expression didn't change. Then in 20 years, when historians try to figure out why the Zarathian Empire collapsed, they'll trace it back to this moment. To the day you decided that pride was more important than strategy. Kelly stood abruptly. This is intolerable. They insult us with impunity. They predict our downfall with smiles on their faces. Commander, we should be silent. Varric's command cut through the chamber like a blade. His attention remained fixed on the two humans. You claim you come offering mercy. Mercy implies we are in danger. Prove it. Show me one threat that makes the Zarathian Empire vulnerable to your species. Dr. Mendez and Ambassador Cole exchanged a glance. Some silent communication passed between them. Then Dr. Mendez tapped her tablet one final time. You're absolutely right to ask for proof, she said. So let me show you something. These are the coordinates of your primary shipyard in the Kellis system. Your most secure facility, home to the 12th Fleet, surrounded by sensor nets, defense platforms, and patrol wings. The hologram displayed a massive orbital complex, bristling with weapons surrounded by warships. Last month, we placed a small device in the station's reactor control center. Nothing dangerous, just a transmitter that broadcasts a specific signal. Would you like us to activate it? Varric's expression cycled through disbelief, rage, and finally calculation. You're lying. Try hailing the station, Ambassador Cole suggested. Ask them if there's a 30-centimeter cubic device behind Panel 7 Delta in Engineering Section 9. The tension in the chamber was suffocating. Kellis immediately began working his console. The seconds dragged past. Every council member watched, frozen. Finally, Kellis looked up, his face unreadable. They're checking now. More silence. Varric's claws had actually pierced the stone armrests of his throne. Then Kellis's console chimed. The strategist read the message, and his orange blood drained from his face. Commander, they found it. Exactly where the human said. They're analyzing it now, but preliminary scans suggest that's enough. Varric's voice was hollow. He looked at the two smiling humans with something that might have been respect. Or horror. You infiltrated our most secure facility. You could have planted explosives. Biological weapons. Instead, you left evidence that you'd been there. We wanted you to know. Dr. Mendez said simply, We're not your enemy, Commander. We don't want to destroy you. We just want you to understand that if this becomes a war, it won't be the war you're expecting. Ambassador Cole stepped forward one final time. Here's our offer. We'll withdraw from any system you can demonstrate legitimate ongoing occupation of, not conquest centuries ago, but actual current use. We'll establish a neutral buffer zone. We'll open diplomatic channels. And in exchange, you walk away from this ultimatum and maintain the reputation of the Zarathian Empire as a force that chooses its battles wisely. Or, Dr. Mendez continued, you proceed with invasion, spend 20 years hunting humans through the darkness, lose thousands of ships to mines and sabotage, watch your subject species revolt, and eventually withdraw anyway. Except by then, the entire galaxy knows you can be beaten. Varric sat motionless, a statue carved from rage and calculation. The humans had given him a choice, but they'd structured it, so there was really only one logical option, and they'd done it while smiling. While being polite, while never once raising their voices or making explicit threats. You've made your point, he said finally, his voice cold iron. Leave. We will. Consider your proposal. Of course. Ambassador Cole gave a respectful nod. We'll await your response. And Commander, thank you for hearing us out. We genuinely hope this ends peacefully. The two humans turned and walked toward the massive doors with the same calm demeanor they'd entered with. Not hurrying. Not looking back. Just two ordinary-looking diplomats who'd somehow just diffused an interstellar war. Just before the doors closed, Dr. Mendez paused and looked back. Oh, one more thing. That device we left in your shipyard? We placed identical transmitters in 47 other high-security facilities across your empire. We know where they all are. We've known for 18 months. We just wanted to make sure you understood that this isn't a bluff. The doors closed. The humans were gone. In the council chamber, High Commander Varric sat staring at the empty doorway for a long time. Around him, his advisors waited in silence, afraid to speak. Finally, Kellis ventured, "Commander, what are your orders?" Varric's laugh was bitter. "Order intelligence to find every infiltration point. Order diplomacy to draft a border agreement. And order someone to explain to me how a species that's barely been in space for a century managed to teach the Zarathian Empire the meaning of fear." He paused, then added quietly, almost to himself, "They sent diplomats. Smiling diplomats, and somehow that was worse than sending their entire fleet." 3 months later, the Zarathian Empire and humanity signed the Concordance of Boundaries. The Empire claimed it as a diplomatic victory, recognition of their sovereignty by an upstart species. Humanity didn't contradict them. Both sides knew the truth, but only one of them needed to save face. Ambassador Henry Cole and Dr. Ica Mendez returned to Earth as heroes, though they mostly just seemed relieved. When asked by reporters how they'd managed to prevent the war, Ambassador Cole smiled, the same calm, patient smile he'd worn in the council chamber. "We just reminded them," he said, "that bullies only stay bullies until someone stands up, and humanity has a lot of experience standing up." Dr. Mendez added, "Also, we did our homework. Never underestimate the power of being prepared." Neither of them mentioned the 47 infiltrations. That secret remained classified. The Zarathians knew, of course, but they'd learned something important. Humanity didn't just survive through luck or numbers. They survived because they remembered every lesson, adapted to every threat, and never ever stopped preparing for the next fight. And they did it all with a smile. The end.